The following is an Operation Podcast production.
Sleep is achievable. That quality sleep is achievable.
28% of U.S. adults wake up feeling well-rested most days of the week.
We've grown so comfortable as a society with technology and conveniences that it's come at the cost of our health because our brain's like, when are we up, when are we down? I don't know. What do I do? What do I produce? When do I produce it? Innately, our bodies need this temperature variation and light variation. The wake cycle begins with light, with heat, with temperature, with movement. What has happened, cortisol production has just become, it's just all day long. We're in fight or flight all day long. And then we expect ourselves to just lay down and go to sleep.
What is maybe one telltale sign that this is optimizing my sleep or it's not?
I would ask for two telltale signs. The first, just because of aging and natural aging processes, because of stressors, anxiety, all of the things that we do to ourselves as aging adults, what suffers most is our deep sleep window.
Do we need to get cold or just colder? Is there an optimal body temperature, room temperature we need to be getting to?
Perfect question, and this is why. Hey, I'm Marie Schick, certified health and wellness coach and sleep expert. Welcome to Ever Forward Radio.
If someone is brand new to this show, they've never heard of me, never heard of you, they just so happen to click on this podcast, can you tell me the reason why they should stick around? What lesson are they going to learn by listening to us for the next 45 minutes or an hour?
That sleep is achievable. That quality sleep is achievable. Takes some effort, but there are a number of tips and tricks and small tweaks that you can make to your current routine, to your current life and lifestyle that can maximize your sleep.
She flew in from Charlotte, North Carolina today, everybody. Amazing. Thank you again for being here.
Of course. It's my pleasure.
So in preparation for this, I researched sleep. Beyond the obvious, which we're going to get to, how do I get better quality, more quantity? What's the difference between deep REM, light sleep, wearable supplements, all of the hacks and things. But I found some pretty alarming data about the current state of sleep in the US. From the US News, the current state of sleep in the US. And it's talking about how Americans sleep in terms of the quality of sleep. So 72% of US adults got sufficient sleep in 2020. 70% got sufficient sleep in 2022. Hawaii is considered the worst state for sleep, with 46% of adults reporting sleeping less than 7 hours a night. Minnesota and Vermont are considered the best states for sleep. In 2020, US adults who reported, quote, short sleep duration was highest among men. And lastly, 28% of US adults wake up feeling well-rested most days of the week. What stood out to you the most?
The geographical locations of the two places that sleep the best and the worst. Notice that the worst sleepers, even though Hawaii is beautiful, could it be due to temperature and light? A lot of sunshine is great in the earlier part of the day. How much are you exposed to it towards the latter part of the day? And then temperature, are you bringing that temperature into the home? Is that temperature conducive to quality sleep? Then you think about Minnesota and Vermont, I think you said?
Yes, yeah.
Let's talk about temperature and light there, right? Longer winters and springs that are cooler, probably more conducive to better sleep. So that's my one-off out of the gates without analyzing anything else. And then men suffering from poorer quality sleep doesn't surprise me. It's a generalization, but I think men tend to try to squeeze the life out of life during the day and at the cost of quality sleep. Time in bed, quality of time in bed because of demands that life puts on them, right? Pressures. You have to take it from somewhere. You've got to take more productivity, more time, more efficiency, and typically we steal it from sleep because it's easy to do.
In your opinion, what is the lowest hanging fruit right now for someone to apply to do today that could overnight improve their sleep quality?
Mitigate light consumption. And I would say between temperature and light. The easiest, I think, is temperature. But the lowest hanging fruit really is light because you can flip a light switch on and off. That doesn't cost you money to flip it on and off. To really manage temperature, it comes with an expense and a little bit more effort. But in my opinion, mitigating temperature goes further. as far as quality sleep. But the lowest hanging fruit as far as what's accessible is turn down the lights, turn off the lights at night. Stop receiving the signals of being awake at night.
Light is something that I think a lot of people hear the most, more frequently when they're looking at improving their sleep quality. It goes to what you just talked about. It goes to also maybe a blackout eye mask, blackout curtains. I've even heard if you can at least remove overhead lights in your house to bring it at or ideally below eye level. But getting away from these type of lights and going more red light. So it's where and how much the light is, but also what type.
So when we're discussing light from light bulbs, light from electricity-based sources, we're discussing from the Industrial Revolution and now, from the invention of the light bulb and forward. But sleep has been around forever. Mm-hmm. So I like to go back much further. What was light for us before the invention of the light bulb? It was a fire. And so you don't need the fire during the day. You need the fire at night to see. And what color is that fire? It's reds and oranges.
Amber, red, yeah.
Right? So, and those were the signals that we were giving our brain. We give our brain signals. We tell our brain what to do with what we're receiving, with the information that we're receiving. And light is one of the ways that we signal the brain, this is time to be up, time to be awake. And light or dark is how we signal the brain, now it's time to go down. And so what color of light is it? In the morning, it's bright light from the sun, bright yellow light. And then as the day progresses and the sun sets, we want to mimic that sun setting. Now that everything is industrialized and we're indoors, we want to mimic that sun setting in our environment at home. So if we can dim the lights, if we can use red light bulbs or oranger hues, we find that people can downregulate. Your brain is getting I know what this is. It's time for bed. Mm-hmm. Because we're constantly seeking routine. Our brain needs a pattern. Our brain needs the signals. And when you're confusing it with light consumption, the brain's like, wait, am I supposed to produce melatonin or not right now? I thought I was supposed to produce melatonin. But melatonin production can't happen with light perception and with heat. It has to perceive dark coolness to be able for the brain to say, okay, no more cortisol. It's time to settle down. And that's why the opposite of that is true. Early in the morning, we want to open the shades. We don't want to be in the dark. We want to open the windows, get outside, get sunlight in your eyes. That's what upregulates us. So that's as important as downregulation is, it starts before that with upregulation in the morning.
Is it better for optimal sleep to focus at the end of the day by reducing light, changing the type of light, or is it better to focus on getting more light quicker and the right type in the morning?
It can be either or. I can't say that one is better than the other, because if for you, the lower hanging fruit is starting your day early with sunshine in your eyes, if that's easier for you, let's start there.
Okay.
If you are not a morning person and you're going to be miserable starting out, getting that sunshine in your eyes, you're not going to do it. I mean, as coaches, we know you got to meet them where they're at, right? So if that's not going to be feasible, why give them a prescription that's not going to work? Find what they can do and then work backwards. So maybe we start, if you're not a morning person and you are a night person and you do your most productive work at night, then okay, keep doing it. Does it have to have a screen? Typically it does, because that's where we are in the world today. Then use those screens, but use that protective eyewear where you're converting the color of the light that you're perceiving from fluorescent, from white light, to an amber colored light, so that the brain cannot be as shocked and as stimulated, so that you're doing what you need to do. We prefer that you limit the screen time, but it still could be with a dim light, taking notes, writing notes, whatever you're needing to do. You can still be productive at night if you're a night person, because we can't change someone's chronotype. We can't change the way that people are better at night or in the morning. So which is better? It depends on the person.
Okay. If we're at night or whenever that is for us, and we're getting our most productive work done and we need extra light and it's outside of normal daylight hours, should the light be overhead? Should it be at eye level, below eye level? Should we focus on the color, swap out the bulb? If that's our life and that's what we can do, How can we go deeper and better there?
It's an excellent question. And actually, I always take it back to how we evolved, right? We did not evolve on a cushy mattress in a nice, comfortable HVAC-enabled home, right?
We didn't all have chili pads forever.
No, we didn't. We didn't. We evolved. I mean, we came from sleeping on the ground, on the floor, in a cave, in a dark, cold cave. And what was our source of light? Even in a cave, it was a fire on the ground. So your question is completely accurate. It should be warmer hues coming from the bottom up, as long as it's conducive to writing or reading, whatever you need to do.
Like
and that's
candlelight or?
Candlelight, firelight, changing the light bulbs, the color of the light bulb. A lot of the lights are LED lights, which we don't love, but still, you can change the color of the LED light.
Why don't we love LED lights?
Well, because typically they're very bright and they emit a lot of, first of all, EMF, electromagnetic frequency, which we're taking in, which is also disruptive to sleep. But if you can change the hue of the light, if you don't have light bulbs or fire at your disposal, you can change the color by the lens on your glasses if you use blue light blocking glasses. And not all blue light blocking glasses are created equal. When you see those cheapos at the gas station that are like clear and they say blue light blocking glasses.
Anything at the gas station,
right?
no,
well,
unless it's gas.
Right, exactly.
Even then I have trust issues sometimes.
Exactly. But if you're going to invest in blue light blocking glasses, you don't have to break the bank, but just make sure that the lens is amber colored or darker, so that it really can change the hue of that light that your brain is receiving.
Okay. I have been using blue light blockers damn near most nights of the week for the last at least 4 years.
Awesome.
Now, I researched and I found a pair that I believe work really well. I like the way they look. Now, shout out FlyKit and some other people
Yes.
when I'm on like crazy
Those are
time
my favorite
zone.
ones.
They work really well. So it has to be very situational dependent for me. I'll only go that next level of biohacking or nuance, if you will, when the situation I feel for me demands it. I've got a cross-country flight. I really need to try to get some sleep on the plane. Or I'm going international, whatever. If the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak. Now at night, watching TV, if I'm working late or just having lights on in the house, I'll wear the clear color blue light blocking lenses. And I actually had a guy, shout out Matt Maruka of Raw Optics, on the show last year, twice now. And he has incredible eyewear company, blue light blockers. And he's told me that clear lens blue light blockers flat out do not work. What's your take on that?
I agree.
You agree?
I agree.
Okay, why?
Because of the color of the light. The brain is perceiving, yes, there are waves, there's frequencies, but it's the color of the light that the brain still is seeking. And so if it's not filtering out that white light, that bright blue light, the brain is still perceiving it. So it's not doing an adequate job of blocking the blue light if it's clear.
So even though I'll say maybe it's placebo, who knows, but when I wear the clear lens blue light blockers, I do feel eye strain relief. Now, is that eye strain relief turning into improving my sleep quality?
Very possible.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, even if it is placebo relief or placebo effect, who cares, right? Like if it works and then I would take it a step further. If you were my coaching client, I would say, I'm glad that you feel like it makes you sleep better or you sleep well. Now let's look at the data, right? So how is your sleep scored? Are you tracking your sleep, first of all? So yep, you got to see your Whoop strap, your Whoop band. So then if your sleep data is saying that you're getting the quality sleep that you need, for whatever reason, whether it's the glasses or a combination of everything that you do, don't fix it if it ain't broke. Keep doing you. That's what we want. I mean, we're not here to reinvent the wheel. We're here to go back to where we came from, because we're hacking our way back there anyway, with cold therapy, with hot therapy. It's because we've grown so comfortable as a society with technology and conveniences that it's come at the cost of our health, because our brain's like, when are we up, when are we down? I don't know. What do I do? What do I produce? When do I produce it? Because we're mixing these signals up of light and dark and heat and cold and now we get into a cold plunge and then we get into a hot sauna, and it's because our bodies need innately our bodies need this temperature variation and light variation. And when we are going from one environment to another, from our homes to our cars to our gyms to our offices to our schools to our back to, and it's all the same light and it's all overhead and it's all the same temperature, the brain doesn't know what to do anymore.
Yeah. What about shift workers?
It's a huge issue. One of my best friends is a third shift nurse, and working with her to improve her sleep, it's and they not only is it that they're not sleeping well and they've got to figure it out, and then it swing shift changes it as soon as they get some good sleep under their belt, then they switch it up again. People that travel east to west constantly, that constant changing, that's when you have to give yourself or train your brain to pick up on cues, whether it's a pillow, something as simple as a pillow spray, or using the blockers, the blue light blockers when you know you want to be down regulating no matter what time of the day it is, mitigating your caffeine intake, stimulating and relaxing the way that you need it before you sleep and when you wake up, so that your brain can get into that cycle, because it can't always follow your circadian rhythm based on the rising and setting of the sun if you're supposed to be working and you're supposed and think about these shift workers, whether it's in a coal mine, whether it's a surgeon, whether it's a nurse taking care of someone who's on life support or a NICU baby. They have to not only be awake, they have to be their mental acuity. They have to be on.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of work with special ops in the military, and they can't take Ambien, and a lot of them do. But then to ask them to get up in the middle of the night and parachute into into an ocean somewhere, you've got to be game ready. You've got to be ready. And taking something that's making you sleep is not how you're going to be able to get up and perform. And so when you mitigate, when you handle the signals that you're giving your brain, you can better kind of hack your way around that to get better sleep. And it's all about what the signals are that you're sending your brain through temperature, through light, through consumption, things that are stimulating you or relaxing you. And behavior and mindset, so that ultimately okay, I'm not going to set myself up for defeat. I'm going to set myself up for success. These are the things that I'm going to do, and it's going to be okay, and my brain is going to perceive this as down regulation, and I'm going to go to sleep. So it's habits. It's routine.
What is going on in the beginning of the day that is so important for us to rise with haste to meet and greet the sun that is going to help optimize our sleep?
What is going on is it is getting lighter and brighter and warmer. And what happens in the brain is the melatonin production shuts down. It's literally like a switch. I mean, Clifford Saper out of Harvard said it's like a sleep switch.
Once light hits us.
Okay. It switches the melatonin switch off and the cortisol switch is on. So the wake cycle begins with light, with heat, with temperature, with movement. The wake cycle begins, cortisol production spikes. So our cortisol should be higher in the earlier part of the day. What has happened, especially in the United States with the stats that you were giving me, the data that you were giving me, is cortisol production has just become, it's just all day long. We're in fight or flight all day long. And then we expect ourselves to just lay down and go to sleep. Well, where did the melatonin production come in to hit that sleep switch again? Turn the cortisol production off. Melatonin cannot be produced if the brain is still saying, no, we're not ready yet. We're still getting light. We're still getting heat. We're still getting, and we're still, and a lot of times it might not even be light and heat. It might be elevated body temperature due to metabolic function, due to a late workout. Some people can work out late and cool down quickly and recover quickly and down regulate. Some people simply can't. They're still burning hot 2 and 3 and 4 hours after their workout. No wonder they can't settle down and go to sleep. So again, it's different for everyone, but temperature and light is it always comes back to where did we come from? Where did we evolve from? And it's okay that now we are so modernized, but what do our bodies and our brains still need?
I learned a fancy word listening to other podcasts. So my understanding is that we have this part of our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And what happens is supposed to happen in the mornings. You wake up, you rise, and the photoreceptors predominantly in our eyes, but we also have photoreceptors on all parts of our body, which is a whole nother thing to get into when you think about, I'm putting a blackout eye mask on. Should I be in like a blackout bodysuit? To tangent my own story. I was listening years ago to Sean Stevens in the Model Health Show, and I learned so much of my sleep habits and tactics from him.
I have his book.
It's incredible. Sleep Smarter.
Yep.
And he shared this study about how people, it was like a double-blind placebo, and they would put them in like a blackout room and or like blackout eye mask. And some of the participants, they actually it was like a pin light, like a pin flashlight on the back of their kneecaps. They didn't even know it was there. And the group that had the light shown on their skin got significantly less quality sleep. So that just goes to show you, again, we're getting super nuanced. That's kind of the point of this episode, for me at least, is just to be a reminder of how you do what you can, but everything matters, especially when it comes to sleep. So that being said, the suprachiasmatic nucleus is really kind of the...
It's a good spelling bee word.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, really. God bless anybody with that one. I might Google it real quick. But it's kind of really what drives where I want to go next is our circadian rhythm. That is basically literally the nucleus of our circadian rhythm. So when we receive light through the photoreceptors in our eyes and or skin, the suprachiasmatic nucleus is triggered, and then it kind of begins a countdown of typically 14 to 16 hours from that moment. So it's really your best night's sleep, and when, again, if other things are optimized, when cortisol should be dropping, melatonin should be increasing, and you should be going into your wind down and getting ready for sleep, is about that 14 to 16 hour window, only if this suprachiasmatic nucleus is in fact triggered and consistently.
Right. And temperature being a part of that, because as typically our body temperatures are warmer in the morning, and that assists with the whole upregulation process. And then at night, the body temperature does dip, which is why we find people get sleepy at night if they've built up enough sleep pressure during the day. And then also there is a temperature drop in the middle of the day, which is why most cultures, not in America, but most cultures take that afternoon siesta.
That's why, really.
That is intuitively following. If you think about field workers back in the day, they would seek shelter during the hotter parts of the day.
Oh, wow.
Their body temperature would drop. They'd be in the shade, and they would take a nap. And as long as the nap isn't more than about 30 minutes, that's why we call it a power nap. Don't make it too long. It can actually be reinvigorating. The body temperature drops, and it makes you sleepy. A lot of people are like, no, it's because I eat. Even if you don't eat a big lunch, you do find that middle of the day kind of drop. And a lot of people just take to caffeine. If that's what works, if that's what you need to do, but you have to be really careful at what time you do that, because then it can affect your sleep onset at night, and then not only sleep onset, but sleep duration and quality later. But temperature drop in the middle of the day is a real thing.
So then does that mean, are humans meant to nap?
Yes. Well, because before the days of air conditioning, middle of the day, when you've been up since the sun came up, middle of the day, temperature dropped. If they felt like they didn't have watches and schedules and meetings to go to, if they felt like they needed to get under a tree, right? Oh my gosh, get under a tree, lay under a tree and take a quick nap, and then get back up and be ready for the rest of the day. Absolutely. Okay. Now, again, it's the quality of that nap, the quantity of that nap, and as long as it's not cannibalizing the quality and quantity of your nighttime sleep. Not everybody can nap. I know that I can't. I'm not a good napper, but we should be. I think we have trained ourselves not to be. It's a healthy habit to have done properly.
So then, before I get into, I want to dive into circadian rhythm, a concept with you. This aspect of napping, that's really interesting information. Walk us through why that 30-minute cap is so important. And should we all be trying to nap? Should we all be striving for that 30-minute mark? Should it all be around the same time? Why nap?
So it's about, if you don't feel like you need a nap because you are performing adequately all day long, up to your expectations and your potential all day long, don't force a nap. If you feel like you're sleeping well, your sleep is unaffected by napping during the day, then continue doing what works.
Okay.
If you're napping during the day and your sleep at night is suffering, then we need to focus on eliminating the nap or changing the duration of that nap. But if it's something that you can fit into your day and it is not taking away from the quality of your sleep at night, it is found, and that's why working hours in other countries are much later as well, because they've had that kind of reset in the middle of the day. They've had that recharge. And if productivity increases, which in a lot of countries it does, whereas in the States, productivity after that lunchtime hour starts to decline. So it all has to do with personally, how productive are you? And maybe your zone of genius is in the middle of the day and you don't need to be messing it up with taking a nap. And you're fine, you're game on, as long as your quality of sleep that night is good. So it really has to do with how is your sleep at night? Can you afford to take that nap? Maybe do you need to take that nap to get the quality of sleep back to where it needs to be? Because you can be overtired if you've gone through the whole day.
Yeah.
And you get to the nighttime. You can be, children
you can be so
are
exhausted you can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm someone listening and I'm here to optimize my sleep and I already get good sleep, in my opinion, but I want to try anything and everything I can to even get a little bit mo better, as I say. And I try napping. How will I know if it's working for me or not? What is maybe one telltale sign that this is optimizing my sleep or it's not?
I would ask for two telltale signs. The first, how do you feel when you wake up after you've napped? How do you feel? Like so much of what we do now to optimize life is all on paper and numbers and information. Stop. Do a self-check just for a second. How do you feel? How was that? Was that good? Could you do that again tomorrow? Or is it something that you think is not really working for you? That's the first check. And then the second telltale sign is if you're tracking your sleep, if you're qualifying your sleep, does your sleep quality improve or does it worsen?
Okay.
And that would, there's the answer.
Okay.
And if you're not tracking your sleep and qualifying your sleep, go back to how you feel when you wake up the next day. If you feel like it's just not working, then maybe remove that nap.
Okay.
And this isn't something where you just make a decision from one day to the next. You have to take a couple practice swings, right? So give it a couple days. If it doesn't work,
what's a fair test cycle? A couple days, a week, a month?
I would say 3 to 7 days.
Okay.
To see if something's working. Unless it's terribly disrupting your sleep, don't be sleep deprived because you're trying some trick out for 30 minutes during the day.
Okay.
If it's just not working, don't do it. Back off. Yeah.
Now, what about on the other side of that? If I'm hearing this and I'm going, I actually don't get good quality sleep at night and I do nap, would you advise testing, removing the nap to see if that helps? Maybe
First
the
and
nap
foremost.
is okay.
Absolutely. Yes. Because we could be cannibalizing the quality of our sleep at night, right? So try not to nap. Go for a walk instead. Sometimes we feel lethargic. Maybe we're dehydrated. Maybe we just need some movement. So get some movement, get some oxygen, breathe, take deep breaths. A lot of times, maybe even not napping, but doing some stretching or even yoga nidra, which is just literally lying down. And you can get into even close to deep sleep quality for 30 minutes if you just do some yoga nidra, which is you're in the corpse position and you're literally taking your brain and slowing the brain waves down.
I am not a napper. I've tried napping. It doesn't work for me. I could be exhausted, but for some reason during the day, I just can't get to sleep. Maybe it's old lifestyle habits kicking in or whatever. But I will say I do enjoy a good rest. Like if I'm tired, I want to take a break. I want to get horizontal. I want to chill. I want to zen out give me 5 minutes, 15 minutes tops. I heard this concept recently from, I heard it first from Andrew Huberman, Huberman Lab podcast called NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. Part of me has to go, are we making something out of nothing here? Is non-sleep deep rest, isn't that just taking a break? Or is there something more to this protocol of NSDR, non-sleep deep rest? Is that a term, a thing you're familiar with, or are we just talking about taking a break?
I think it's a different way of phrasing meditation or yoga nidra. It's taking a break, it's checking out, and it's literally slowing down the brain waves, letting the body reset. Because we're going all day long. So I think non-sleep deep rest, that's exactly what yoga nidra is. And meditation forces us to focus on breath. Meditation forces us to get out of the outside world and into yourself, right? Draw in, reset, calm down. I mean, this constant go, go, go that we're in, we're getting really good at it, but it's coming at the cost of our health. And we just sometimes need to hit the pause button, breathe, and then get back in the game. And I believe the NSDR is as good as or the same as these other methods. Whatever works, that's what you need to do. Find what works, call it what you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
A rose by any other name.
Yeah. So then let's move on to circadian rhythm. I think the two words that people are most familiar with when we're understanding or learning about sleep health, sleep optimization. Can you dive into circadian rhythm? What is it? Do we all have it? Is mine the same as yours? And how can we really first get a baseline of our circadian rhythm? And then what can we do to optimize it?
Okay, so circadian rhythm is basically the sleep-wake cycle. And so where circa is the cycle, right? It's the rhythm that your body needs to perceive nighttime, daytime, sleeping time, waking time. And it is defined for you specifically by your chronotype, which is, chronos has to do with time. What time are you more productive? What time do you need to go to bed? So all of it has, it all works in conjunction.
How do I know my chronotype?
So the easiest way to figure it out, there are a lot of online, you can find a lot of questionnaires to kind of help you find out. And sometimes you're named an animal, or you're a night person, or you're a morning person.
Yeah, you're a bear, a lion, an owl, a dolphin.
There you go.
Shout out Dr. Michael Bruce.
That's right, sleep doctor.
Yeah.
So it can be an animal, and that's just to simplify it. But basically, and you hear people talk about the early bird gets the worm. So typically it's the early birds or the night owls, right? So that's typically what you hear of. But and people are like, well, I don't know what I am. How do I know what I am? Well, if you had to do a research paper or a project or solve a math problem or write an article, whatever your job is, or whether you're a student of life, whatever you're doing, preparing for, when are you most productive? When do you find that you can focus the best, come up with the best material, content, and that you're satisfied with it? Not when are you forced to, right? Because what you find is a lot of kids in school, we tend to put math and science in the earlier part of their day. But if those kids aren't morning, if their chronotype is not, and it's genetic, it's hereditary. And so 9 times out of 10, if their parents aren't morning people, or at least one of their parents isn't a morning person, chances are they won't be either. And so we're forcing them to do their best thinking when maybe their best thinking is later on in the day. So that's how you can first figure it out. So if you're a morning person, then you need to be getting to bed a little bit earlier so that you can be ready to go in the morning. If you're a night person, you're going to want to stay up later. And that's unfortunate when you have, a couple.
Yeah.
One's a night person and one's a morning person. And you can be creative and work around that, because you can try to fight it and you can try to, but you're not going to change that person's chronotype. So there are ways to get around that. I don't love sleep divorces, but sometimes a sleep divorce is when you amicably agree to sleep in different rooms because of my schedule. Because of my schedule, because of your schedule, because of you're getting up with the kids or a newborn. If it's temporary, it's warranted. But permanently, to me, there's so much more about if you have a sleep partner. Now, some people don't have a sleep partner, don't want a sleep partner. They're fine. Don't mess with my sleep. My sleep is perfect. Absolutely. But people that intend or have the intention of sleeping together, no one's sleep should have to be damaged, affected negatively by chronotype. You can't force chronotypes to be the same, right? And so, but you can work around it. And if it is, letting them fall asleep, and then you do your work, and then you get in bed, or waking up quietly. I mean, there are different ways to do it. Don't turn on the bright lights. There are ways to do it. It sounds so simple, but again, you can't force someone to be a night owl when they're an early bird.
That's such a good reminder. I'm kind of laughing on the inside, because when I really began to prioritize sleep, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, this was me kind of forcing what I thought was best on my household, particularly my wife. And I, first thing in the morning, I would open up the shades and I would turn on the lights, or at night I would crank down the thermostat, and I would implement all these things, and I would just kind of go, no, this is what we have to do. We have to do this in order to get the best night's sleep.
Because it's what they say we should do.
Exactly. Because I listened to one podcast, and then it just wasn't the case, And so I tried to kind of I think a lot of people might be laughing as well, because you latch onto something, you're trying to improve an area of your life, and of course you want the people around you that you love and care about to also improve. But they have to choose it, right? But also I'm hearing is that, and what I now know is that wasn't really the case. My wife and I are not, my partner and I are not the same chronotype. Right. I'm way more the early bird. I'm ready to get up. Like the second I open my eyes, maybe 3 seconds later, I'm up, I'm alert, I'm kicking ass, I'm doing things. And she's just like, don't talk to me for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so now it's just kind of this next step realization, next step optimization in my sleep health is recognizing what I can do to support my sleep health protocols while also supporting my partners.
Right.
That way we both win.
Right, exactly. Because happy spouse, happy house.
Absolutely. And another thing I'll say, and I'm curious if you're going to expand on this with you. When I travel, or if I'm out of town, my wife's out of town or whatever, if I'm at home or away, I will still go through all of my normal sleep protocols. If I'm traveling, I'll take my fly kit. If I have my blackout eye mask, I will try to wake up early, get to bed at the same time, mitigate light, all the things. And I still will never get as good a night's sleep on my own, even with all of my rituals and habits and supplements or whatever, as when I'm with my partner.
Yeah.
And she's kind of the same way. What's going on there? Why, if we already have a partner that we regularly sleep with or beside, even when we do all the other things to support sleep health, why is it when they're not there, we can't get that same good quality sleep?
Well, first of all, congratulations. You've achieved synergy.
Or is it called codependency?
Well, but so there is an element of habit to it, right? There's that person, preferably that same person in your bed, that if they're not, then it's your body is seeking it.
After 11 years.
Yeah. So there's that, right? So the brain is craving routine. The brain craves routine.
Routine, even in the sense of presence.
Yes. And then there is the serotonin release that touch provides. Even when we sleep, and even if it's breath, it's this brain perceiving it. That's the serotonin being the informant of things are good. It's okay. I'm safe. I'm accompanied. If that is what a person who is used to sleeping with the significant other or the partner feels. And it doesn't even have to be a significant other. It can be a child. It can be a pet.
Oh, yeah.
That when you travel, that pet's not with you. Yeah. So it's again, triggers. The brain is constantly seeking signals and triggers to do what it was designed to always do. We are never going to stop needing sleep. We can change the way we eat. We can change the way we work out. We can change the way that we heat and cool things. We are never going to stop our need for sleep. And it's the one thing that's suffering. Now, we spend 30% of our lives, or we should spend 30% of our lives, at least focusing on, if we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Because we prepare workout regimens, we prepare meal prepping and laundry and grocery lists, and we spend so much time and money on all of that. But then we just leave sleep by the wayside. And just don't worry about it.
What is it, like 7 years? I think we spend 7 years of the traditional American lifespan asleep, something like that.
Well, if it's
the amount of hours over a lifetime, it turns into, is it 7 years?
Yeah.
Someone's going to let me know how wrong I am in the comments, but
well, we say 30% of your life. So whatever the American lifespan is, which is less and less. Lifespan is longer. Again, it's not life. To me, it's not about lifespan that I'm seeking. It's quality of life span. I don't want to live to be 100 if I can't walk, and if my brain is so full of plaque and gunk because it never gets flushed because I never get into deep sleep. I could go on. Yeah. I don't want to live that life. I want to live a quality life, even if it's 20 years less. Take me to the finish line and let me just go down all guns blazing, super healthy. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to live longer if it's not going to be quality. But that's just me.
I'm with you. And speaking of quality, let's go there next. The moment I close my eyes and I'm drifting off to sleep, what are the proper sleep stages? What's going on and why are they important?
So you close your eyes and you drift into what is considered light sleep. And that should take you about 15 to 20 minutes. That's what we call sleep latency. That's how long it takes you to fall asleep. If you're falling asleep, as people say, before my head hits the pillow, that's not a good thing. You're sleep deprived. You're significantly sleep deprived. That should not be the case. That means that you have a sleep debt that is going to catch up with you.
Wow. So
yes.
I heard you say 15 minutes. So is 15 minutes for most people that optimal range?
Yeah,
okay.
That's what we say. If it's 10, maybe you had a hard workout earlier in the day, maybe something's going on, that's fine. But if it's immediate and if it's consistently immediate that you fall asleep and that you're falling asleep everywhere you are, I sleep anywhere, I'm easy to go to sleep. That means the quality of your sleep that you're getting when you're supposed to be asleep, I would be willing to bet anything that it's not good quality sleep if it's being measured.
Damn, that's pretty alarming.
It is. And it's just a matter of knowledge. So much of what we're suffering now, again, this is sleep disorders aside, illness aside, as long as you've been medically cleared and you know that nothing medically is wrong with you, but your sleep is still suffering. Thanks to technology and convenience and comfort, it's cost us quality of sleep. So we've gained convenience and comfort and gadgets and exciting things, but we've lost quality of sleep, which is going to cash in, and it's going to come in the form of less quality of life. And so by keeping that in mind and knowing, okay, I need to downregulate. There is a part of the brain that needs to perceive it. This is the time. Now we're going to sleep. And so I'm receiving the melatonin. I'm getting sleepy. I'm getting drowsy. And now I'm drifting from light sleep, which is one of the non-REM stages, into the beginnings of REM, and then you're in the REM sleep stage, which is rapid eye movement. And so first of all, back up a little bit. In the light sleep stage, that's when you see people kind of like jolt or they start like moving a little bit. They're drifting
like
into, twitching. They're drifting into the REM sleep stage, and that's rapid eye movement. And actually, if they are completely in REM sleep, it's rapid eye movement, but your muscles are paralyzed. Your body is paralyzed. And because in your REM sleep stage, that's when you're having those vivid dreams and you're acting out different scenarios, typically brought on by emotional problems, emotional aspects of your day that you're working through. That's when we're sorting through information that we receive, bits of knowledge that we receive, how things make us feel. We're sorting through those emotions in REM sleep. And so whether we are flying off a building, we're having these wild dreams. And so the body innately goes into paralysis to not act out those dreams.
What?
Although the eyes are moving very quickly, the body is unable to jump off a building. The body is unable to fly like a bird.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And then you're in that REM stage until you drift into deep. And the deep sleep, and REM, the brain waves are much faster. Light and light sleep and REM sleep, brain waves are much faster. And then in deep sleep, the body temperature decreases, the brain waves slow down, and that's when we're getting that cell and tissue repair. So in REM sleep, we're working through emotional problems and questions and issues, and we're receiving information and deciding what to keep and what not to keep. And then in deep sleep, that's when we're filing them permanently, and that's super crucial for long-term memory. And what do we need for long-term memory is proper brain health. And so spinal fluid goes up into the brain, flushes the brain of toxins, it prevents the buildup of plaque. And that's typically 9 times out of 10 what is causing the diseases of the aging and elderly is the buildup of plaque in the brain.
Like Alzheimer's,
dementia, all of those. And so if we can get quality deep sleep, that car wash is happening, it's washing the brain. If we can get that, then that will allow our brains to continue doing what it needs to do to file these long-term memories. And that's just the brain health, right? Then you talk about what happens in deep sleep with cell and tissue repair. Human growth hormone is released, testosterone is released. So all of the nuts and bolts of what is good for your body physically versus emotionally and mentally, that happens in deep sleep. And that is the part that it's so elusive. When we're babies, we get a lot of it. Babies sleep all the time, and we get a lot of deep sleep. As we age, that 2-hour window that we're trying to get or more of deep sleep decreases just because of aging and natural aging processes, because of stressors, anxiety, all of the things that we do to ourselves as aging adults. What suffers most is our deep sleep window. And again, it's not that you go here and then here and then here. As you said, we cycle through all of them. Every 90 minutes, approximately, we cycle through all stages of sleep.
So in a 90-minute block, we're going through all of those stages of sleep.
Typically.
And then it just typically repeats.
Yes.
So
and
then oh, sorry, go ahead.
Then within that 90-minute block, you'll hit all the stages, but what you find in a good sleep report or an excellent sleep report is that when you look at the different sleep stages, the most dense amounts of deep sleep happen in the first part of your night, and the most amount of REM sleep happens in the second part of your night, of your sleep. And so deep sleep has been only studied more recently. REM sleep was studied for, decades. So what they found with deep sleep is it is very much temperature triggered. So once that core body temperature drops, that helps us go into deep sleep. And the longer we can stay there, which is hard to do, the longer we can stay there, because then the body naturally, the circadian rhythm, the body naturally starts to warm up. So if you check your body temperature through the night, you'll see it's kind of a bell curve. It's warm, it wants to drop down into cold, and then it warms up again.
I can now, thanks to Chili Pad.
Yeah. And so that's what we try to emulate with the Chili Pad, right? We're trying to bring that cave back into your bed because we want you to be comfortable. But don't forget the importance of temperature on sleep. And if you don't have 8 hours to give us, then give us 6. Let us figure it out where we can get you cold enough to get some deep sleep, because that's where the repair comes, and that's where we're able to prevent injuries. And if we've got the injuries, recover quicker, recover better. So that's what we're trying to do.
I want to get into temperature next, but you said something that made me really question sleep duration. You said we go through typically all of our sleep cycles every 90 minutes. Should we be aiming for X amount of 90-minute blocks in our sleep? If we're going to bed and waking up, whether that's we're naturally going to bed, naturally waking up, we're setting an alarm clock, should we kind of be reverse engineering X amount of 90-minute blocks to get adequate sleep cycles?
So data geeks like yourself.
Yeah, I'm nerding out.
I know. It's an excellent question. So it's more about are we setting up a third shift worker or a first responder for defeat by telling them you're not getting enough 90-minute cycles? No, it's about how much can you squeeze out of the time that you can give us. So yes, the longer you can sleep, the better chances you have of hitting all those sleep cycles and hitting as much. So sleep duration is part of sleep quality. It's not that we're trying to just get you to sleep less with the Chili Pad. No, we're aiming for 7 to 8 hours a night of sleep. But I think it's like 57% of Americans are only getting 6.5 hours of sleep a night. I mean, it's ridiculous. It was a data point in my head, not something that you spilled out.
It triggered something. I think I saw that stat. I wrote it down, but I'll get there.
And so, we're trying to get with the Chili Pad, we're trying to get with as many sleep cycles as we can to get you cool enough, because you're only giving us 6.5 hours to do it in. But yes, if you've got the luxury of time, which people call it a luxury of time, but it just depends on your investment. But also, Chase, some people really can't sleep 8 hours. They get it done in 7. Or they get it done in 6. And you look at their quality of sleep, and they're getting their 2 hours of REM and 2 hours of deep.
And sometimes even if they get more sleep, it's actually detrimental.
Right.
They wake up more groggy. They don't feel as rested. So it's kind of like a point of diminishing return for some people.
Right. And if they're waking up a lot, if you have a lot of awakenings, and if you're laying in bed and tossing and turning, then you're just training the brain to do that. More of that. So what we want to train the brain to do in the bed is sleep or intimacy. That's it. No tossing and turning, no scrolling, no, because that's what you're telling the brain is okay. So of course that's what you're going to do every day.
This data I have pulled up here says that from the same report earlier, 29% of U.S. adults use devices with screens while falling asleep. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Honestly,
3 out of 10 people.
I'd be surprised.
It's probably more than that.
This is reporting. I think the study was a couple years ago, reporting from this year. But I feel like I know 70% of the people I know do that. Why is using a device with a screen while falling asleep so bad for our sleep?
Because it's blue light. It's light, first and foremost. It's electronic light that you're sending into your retina, telling your brain, no, don't produce melatonin. It's go time. Here's light. I'm stimulating you.
What about if I'm using my blue light blockers?
So it's still light nonetheless. I mean, even when we lived in caves, we didn't sit there and stare at a fire, right? Like even when we lived in a cave, it was still bedtime. So it's and you've got to go to bed because you might be fighting lions and tigers and bears the next morning. So they're not worried about what's on the Instagram, right? So there is a degree of what is the light doing to you, as well as why do you need to be on your phone? At what point do you shut it off? At what point do you
She went there, everybody. She went there.
Hey, and I'm guilty of it myself.
Yeah, no,
I call myself on it.
A bigger, more important question and point, I believe.
What am I telling my teenagers when I'm like, get off your phone, get off your phone? They come in and tell me good night. I'm on my phone.
No, but I'm working. This is email. This is important.
No job in the world requires you to be, well, I digress.
Let's get into temperature. Why is body temperature, why is room temperature, why is temperature in general important when it comes to our sleep quality?
Back to deep sleep likes it cold. Back to that. And sleep onset happens when you get cooler. So when you downregulate, when you get into bed, your body temperature drops. It should, per your sleep cycle, per the night, the wake sleep cycle. And so if you can get cool enough, then you will be able to, if you think about, this is a drastic extreme, but people that are going into hypothermia, they get sleepy, right? If you think about hibernating bears and snakes, it's cold. When it's cold, cold typically makes you sleepy.
Do we need to get cold or just colder? Is there an optimal body temperature, room temperature we need to be getting to?
Perfect question. And this is why. Everybody is different.
Question.
Yes, everybody is different. Everybody runs hot or cold or no body temperature is the same, number one. Number two, your own body temperature is never the same throughout the day and night. It is constantly changing. And so what the body needs to feel, what the brain needs to perceive is a 2 to 3 temperature drop, 2 to 3 degree temperature drop.
So it's not this temperature. It needs to be whatever your normal temperature is, 2 to 3 degrees below that. Now, how do we do that?
You can lower your thermostat. You can...
By 2 to 3 degrees?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can lower your thermostat. And you can also make the thermostat warmer in your room, then go to bed, then lower it before you go to bed so that then when it gets colder, your body is sensing that.
That's a dirty trick. I like that.
It is. And it's expensive trick too, but it is one nonetheless. It's about making your body feel and perceive that 2 to 3 degree temperature drop because we're forcing it. Again, it's the signals that we're sending, right? So the brain has to feel, okay, that's what this is. We're getting cold. Okay, let's do it.
Now, I've heard the body, typically, when we're ready to wake up, if we're in a good quality sleep cycle, it begins to warm up. So why is getting warm important to our sleep cycle and really so that we can rise feeling as rested as possible?
That's a really good question too, as it pertains to chilly sleepers, people that sleep with a chilly pad, because they love sleeping with it cold all night long. And they're like, I'm crushing my deep sleep, but my REM is kind of suffering. A lot of times, and especially with athletes, highly metabolic athletes, like we'll get big linemen on these things and they're like, yeah, it's great. But then you look at theirs and they wake up feeling groggy because they haven't started that cortisol production. They're still cold. The body needs to feel that warmth to switch off the sleep switch, remember? And then get warm again and start that natural cortisol release. And that cortisol release is what makes you feel refreshed and awake and ready to go.
It's literally that burst of alertness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a funny story when my mother, who is almost 80, loves her chili pad. She got so greedy with her cold sleep window that she just kept pushing it longer and longer because her deep sleep she was crushing. It's what's the first thing she does in the morning while she's making her coffee is she looks at her sleep score. She's like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And she didn't realize what was going on with her REM sleep. But at the same time, she started complaining of like aches and pains, and she was waking up stiff. And I'm like, yeah, because you're freezing yourself. If you have an arthritic process, especially if you're aging, you can't be cold all night long. For whatever reason, whether it's aging or joint issues in general, you want to warm it up. And it does help to kind of loosen things up, warm it up before you get up. So, and then it has also the warm awake feature, which really helps just kind of really get you out of the bed, because that's the only thing that wakes my teenage son up is that warm awake. It just gets him out of the bed more than an alarm clock, which is actually more natural. It's like the sun's hitting you than a jarring alarm clock. So if you get warm again, then you can wake feeling refreshed versus waking with an alarm clock from that cold temperature. It's a lot. It can be stark.
Something you said kind of made me think about health conditions. I think we could agree objectively if la-di-da-di everybody focused on prioritizing their sleep quality, optimizing their sleep, we would be better. Health, many things would get better. Are there certain health conditions that you would recommend people prioritize sleep more over just general sleep health needs? Like if you suffer from, I think it was arthritis, conditions like that, more inflammatory responses in the body, are there certain things going on in the body, chronic illness, diseases, that you would implore people to focus more on sleep quality so that it can maybe help with these chronic illnesses and diseases?
Absolutely. I mean, the list is endless. Metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance. I mean, so many things that are suffering, cardiovascular disease. So many things that are suffering because we're not focusing on quality of sleep. I mean, like we spoke about before, dementia, Alzheimer's, diseases in general of chronic inflammation. Metabolic, like I said, metabolic dysfunction in general. Our cravings are different. Our leptin and ghrelin, everything gets out of whack because of ailing and failing sleep. That, as you know, everything is cyclical. And so if we can improve sleep, then we can improve function, movement, metabolism, everything improves, so that then those things if we can improve movement, then we can get out and move more. Then we can help heart health as well. I mean, inflammatory processes in general reduce. Chronic inflammation is such a huge part of our lives right now. And sleep is where a lot of it gets managed and handled.
I'm so glad you brought up cardiovascular. Cardiovascular disease in the U.S. at least is consistently the number one killer of men and women. If memory serves, I think it affects women more. I'll have to check that stat. But speaking of, so a recent report from the American Heart Association called Heart Disease and Stroke Statistics showed that every 1 hour a night decrease in sleep below the 7 to 8 hour a night recommended duration is associated with a 6% higher risk of total cardiovascular disease. And then 1 hour a night increase in sleep duration above that 7 to 8 hours a night is associated with a 12% higher risk of total cardiovascular disease. So it's kind of like that 7 to 8 is really the sweet spot.
Yeah, it is.
Now I'm sure there are some other contributing factors to this. I personally, Chase Schuning here, have to believe that if you get 8.5 hours of sleep every night, you're probably not falling in that bucket of 12% higher risk of total CVD, but who knows?
Yeah.
But when you hear those stats, are they surprising to you? And why do you think there is such a prominent link between that sweet spot of sleep and cardiovascular disease?
So one of the things that we're doing when we're sleeping, hopefully, if it's quality sleep, is we're not in fight or flight mode, right? So we're not up and moving, and it's what I tell a lot of clients that I personal train. It's like one of the things you're not doing when you're sleeping is eating, or you're not doing something destructive to your health. Yeah. So if you are sleeping and it's quality sleep, you are contributing to the betterment of yourself, physically, emotionally, first of all. And then at the cardiovascular level, if we are constantly on the go, 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 what does that do to your heart rate variability? What does that do to your resting heart rate if you can't ever let it rest? I mean, things have to rest. And that's as simple. I'm trying to put it in as layman terms as possible. And so chances are, if you are trying to get longer amounts of sleep, you're going to get better amounts of sleep, provided you're doing all the right things. I mean, one thing is not singularly true.
Right.
You have to do all the steps that are necessary, and they're possible. They're doable. It just takes effort.
Yeah.
You can't will yourself to lose weight. You can't will yourself to get in shape for a Spartan race or whatever it might be. You have to go through the steps. And it's the same with sleep. If we planned our sleep from the moment we woke up, if we could just have that mindset of what do I need to do right now when I put my feet on the ground, get out of bed, to set myself up for a successful night of sleep, could you imagine how well we could all sleep? And what you do during the day, how's this going to affect my sleep?
Oh, yeah.
Because we do that when I know I'm going to have a hard workout, I'm thinking about what I'm eating beforehand. I'm thinking about what I'm drinking, how I'm hydrating beforehand.
Oh, yeah. All the before and after, especially the before, really come priority.
We don't do that with sleep. A lot of us don't.
So besides, we talked a lot about things that we can do and become more aware of and optimize: blue light blockers, temperature, light. Some other things that work really well for me that anybody can look up and learn more about, looking at blackout eye mask, looking at, organic bamboo, cooling sheets, chili pad, a quality mattress. Also for me, as of the last almost year, mouth taping at night has been one of the most noticeable, almost as noticeable as eye mask. The next day, I'm just, wow, holy crap, I got so much better sleep.
Wow.
Mouth taping is incredible. Beyond things that we can do to our bodies or our environments, supplementation. A lot of people, I think, lean to or look to supplementation to, I want to get a better night's sleep. Things like magnesium, melatonin, who knows what else. And actually, another stat I had here is that 21% of U.S. adults use natural supplements such as melatonin, lavender, valerian root, magnesium, et cetera, to help them fall asleep. 11% of U.S. adults use things like CBD products. I'm a big CBD proponent. I love it. When we're looking at supplementation, what are your top 3 go-tos that if, let's say, I'm struggling to get to sleep, to stay asleep, to have a good quality sleep, I'm just struggling in my sleep in general, what are 3 supplements you would recommend that I at least try and personally try and test out?
The first thing that is really low-hanging fruit and easy and that people are surprised by is check your vitamin C levels.
Vitamin C?
Low vitamin C can cause middle-of-the-night wakenings.
Really?
Yes.
I've never heard that before.
Yes, and the inverse is true. So if you're adequately dosed with vitamin C, it will help. You will not wake up as much.
Interesting.
The second thing is melatonin is one of those kind of dirty words for us sleep coaches. Melatonin is something that we produce naturally, right? It's a hormone that we have the ability to produce, but we have to allow it to happen. And if we continuously supplement our bodies with it, the brain says, "Oh, we don't need to produce this. It's coming."
It downregulates production, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then it stops. It stops having the effect. And so you have to take more and more. You build up a resistance, and then it stops working. So melatonin is a great tool, especially for jet lag, for immediate onset insomnia, for whatever reason it might be. You're going through something stressful, and so it's a good Band-Aid.
Kind of like an acute situation.
Melatonin is a good Band-Aid. You don't want to be on it for long. And with all supplements in general, not all supplements are created equal, as you know. And so they're not very well regulated by the FDA. And so what one may claim, the other, depending on the quality of them and how bioavailable they are and how the body actually processes them and uses them, you may just be throwing your money down the trash, down the drain. However, some people find great success using magnesium.
Love magnesium.
Yes. And so, again, depending on the type, right? So if too much magnesium citrate's not a good thing for the restroom, but it can have a calming effect, the same as magnesium glycinate. But then when you think of, some people find an Epsom salt bath before bed, magnesium sulfate. that helps them downregulate, whether it's the warmth or the magnesium or the combination of two, the magnesium that they're taking through the skin.
So magnesium, I'm hearing, can be used as part of a healthy sleep routine by ingesting it topically, kind of different forms.
Absolutely, absolutely. So those are kind of easy ones to tackle. I would steer clear of habitual melatonin, people that are like, I can't sleep without my melatonin.
That's a red flag for me. If I hear that, I'm like, you're hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
If okay, let's say if someone has been using melatonin and they feel like they are relying on it, can they just stop? Should they wean off? Like, how would you recommend someone at least test to see if they are now dependent on melatonin?
I would be a proponent of weaning them off because I think it's behavioral, and so just as much as it's a placebo effect for them to say that they can't sleep without the melatonin, which by then it's not even doing anything for them, but in their minds they can't sleep without it, then they have to, like you say, reverse engineer it and say, I'm stepping it out and I'm still going to be able to sleep without it. So it's mindset. Mindset has so much to do with successful sleeping.
Kind of getting towards the end here, and I honestly feel like I could just go another hour or two with you. Just so every answer that you give me to a question gives me another question, and it's just sleep matters so much, and so many things, so many bodily functions, biochemical, physiological, psychological, emotional components to our well-being are influenced and dependent upon quality sleep.
Yeah.
And so, maybe we'll have to definitely do a part 2 or something. But before I get to the final question, I am curious about, with a lot of things in our life, and a lot of things I talk about in the show, we can test them, whether they're in a qualitative or quantitative measure. We can think about it, we become more aware, we can journal about it, or, like me, I've got an Apple Watch, I got a Whoop, Chili Pad, I get all this these data points. I can also go get labs. I can get comprehensive, genetic, I can do all of these things. Is there a test that we can take to measure our sleep health? Is there a biomarkers that could be indicative of, my sleep is good, or maybe by optimizing this area internally can really help my sleep?
So there are questionnaires. There are several questionnaires online that you can. There's the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. There are a couple different ones that are available online that you can qualify your sleep based on perception, kind of like we use rating of perceived exertion in fitness. So
RPE. Wow, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Wow.
Right? It's how do you perceive that you slept? How do you feel like you slept? Because so much about sleep hygiene is mindset, right? Like, how do you set yourself up, and how do you summarize how your sleep was? And then that kind of sets you up for the next night, or what changes are you going to make? So that's one way of doing it, equivalent to journaling. But if you can start measuring somehow, whether it's with a wearable or non-wearable, we also have a sleep tracker that is non-wearable. So if you can start paying attention to your resting heart rate, start paying attention to your HRV, your heart rate variability, which is the time in between heartbeats. So higher HRV is typically, there's more variation in between each heartbeat. And the higher your HRV, the healthier we are, because we can adapt to different demands placed on us. Whereas
it's our ability to go parasympathetic, sympathetic,
back and forth.
Basically on demand, yeah.
Exactly. And so if you can get a baseline on that, then you can check your quality of sleep. So it's just kind of zoom out, forget about sleep stages and all of that. If you want to qualify versus quantify, it was 8 hours and I still feel like crap, what am I doing wrong? Check there. And then keep that scale the same scale. Like, don't check with one thing and then check with another, and then they're so far off.
Right, yeah.
Of course you don't weigh the same in your bathroom as you do at the doctor's office. It's two different scales. Doesn't mean one is good or bad. Check the trends as they change. If it's trending down, we need to, an intervention of some sort is necessary, whether it's behavioral or whether you need to seek help professionally.
Okay, I lied. I have one more question before my final question, just to kind of bring it full circle here. So I asked you at the beginning of the podcast, how was your sleep last night?
Yes.
And you kind of walked us through what happened, and knowing that you have cross-country travel today. And I know after this, you're going to do the same thing. You're going from West Coast back to East Coast.
Right. Trying to get ahead of it.
Exactly. What are you doing, or what do you typically do when you have time zone travel, international travel? How do you approach travel in terms of your sleep health?
I try to replicate what I should be doing normally if I were at home. However I can do that. And first of all, I can't stress enough. So much of it has to do with your attitude towards it, your mindset. So I tell myself, okay, yes, I'm on a plane. Yes, there's a lot of noise. Yes, there's a lot of, and so I know those things are going to happen, and I know what I can bring with me. I can't bring my sleep partner, but I can bring my mask, my blue light blockers, my AirPods or earbuds, preferably earbuds now, because now AirPods over prolonged use, we're not wanting to use those either, but it's something to make noise. And it's generally like the noise of the airplane. So we didn't even address noise, but things that drown out sleep disturbances that can set my, and it should be what you use at home. So if it's just the noise of a bed cooling product, or if it's just the noise of a little fan or something,
I use both, which is such a great bonus to the Chili Pad. It's like a built-in white noise machine.
White noise machine, absolutely. I can't sleep without it, without the noise. So I replicate that noise in my earbuds, in my AirPods. And so between light and sound and comfort level, I try and do that. And then I think about what time is it where I'm going and where I need to be, and where do I need to be in my sleep cycle. So as I go home, because it's 3 hours later for me right now, I'm going to be thinking, because I'm going there, I'm going to be thinking in terms of where I'm landing and start preparing for sleep like that. I don't want to take in the bright airport lights. I don't want to take in the bright airplane lights. So I was telling Chantel, I've got 3 pairs of blue light blockers. The ones well, let me see. No, my reading glasses, and then, because I'm old, but my reading glasses, and then my reading glasses that are blue light blockers. Wow. Yeah, because if I take my contacts out, and then I need my glasses, but I don't want the light. So yeah, it's a thing. But so I've got my prescription blue light blockers and my non-prescription blue light blockers. But it's huge. I know that it affects me. And then I've cut my caffeine off before 2 p.m., no matter what.
Oh, okay. I lied again.
I know.
We cannot leave the sleep podcast not talking about caffeine. Okay.
I know. We didn't talk about
high
alcohol.
level.
Part two.
Can we push your flight? No, I'm just kidding. High level, caffeine. How does it influence our sleep, and what can we do to change our caffeine consumption and time of caffeine consumption to support quality sleep?
I love caffeine.
Hear,
I
hear.
love caffeine. But I love sleep, and I don't sleep all day long, right? So I love my caffeine and I love my sleep, and I don't want my caffeine to affect my sleep. It's kind of like I like alcohol and I like ice cream, but don't give me alcoholic ice cream. I'm not alcoholic.
Wait, is that a thing?
That is a thing. I discovered that. I'm like, why are you putting alcohol in my ice cream? Don't mix the two.
Boozy ice cream? Interesting.
Yeah, no, not for me. But some people. So caffeine is great for those who like it and enjoy it. I mean, we're not put on this earth to be miserable. If that's what you need, if that's what brings you joy, have your cup of joe. Don't have a ton of it. You should know how things affect you. I know how supplements that I take affect me. I know how foods that I eat affect me. I know if I'm intolerant to one food or another. You should know your tolerance or intolerance to caffeine, whether it comes from coffee or whatever other source of caffeine. I also believe that Americans are probably the most over-caffeinated culture in the world. That's just based on opinion. But I think that it is undeniably a stimulant. And again, if we're stimulating the brain, there is a percentage, I think it's like 6% of the human population is insensitive to caffeine, that caffeine doesn't affect them. But I would be willing to challenge that on their sleep reports. Because even people that I care for, like, caffeine doesn't bother me. I can have an espresso before bed.
Oh yeah.
Show me your sleep report.
That's another red flag for me. Like we were saying earlier, melatonin doesn't do anything for me. That's because it's been doing too much to you. Same thing with caffeine. If that's what you believe, then you might really think that. But look at your sleep report, look at your endocrine system, look at your hormones. I beg to differ.
Yeah, and your cortisol and melatonin, your natural processes in your body. It can't happen. It is a stimulant. Full stop.
So about dose and timeline, is there a recommended dosage is there a dosage of caffeine you would recommend most people to consider as a threshold if sleep optimization is the goal? And is there a timeline of caffeine consumption in terms of better to consume it during these hours, not past this hour kind of thing?
Yes and yes. So the dosage, I think, 60 milligrams of caffeine in a cup of coffee? I guess it depends on the strength of your coffee, right?
It can
Is
range,
espresso?
last stats I've seen, anywhere from like 60 to 110, 120.
Again.
Depending on the roast, the brew. Yeah.
So whatever you're used to, because caffeine causes dependency. I mean, people that really do need the caffeine get a headache. I mean, that if that doesn't cue you into the fact that you're probably dependent, maybe that would be a sufficient cue to step it back a little bit. I typically try to aim for no more than 2. One is enough for me because I'm a morning
cups,
person.
2 servings.
Yeah. And they're not consecutive. They're not back to back. But after 2 p.m., it's my caffeine. I call it a caffeine curfew. Cut it off. You don't need it. And it's one of the things that I struggle with my son, who is a high performing athlete, is the pre-workout. The amounts of caffeine in those things is just not necessary.
It's so gnarly. When I think back to when I was running the clinic, I would go work out after work. I would go like 6 o'clock. Again, do what you need to do to get the things that matter done to your life. I would leave to go to the gym around 6 p.m. I would take 2 scoops of pre-workout, 300 milligrams
Poor heart.
of caffeine. I mean, I would kick ass in the gym.
I bet. But you were bouncing off the walls.
But back then, I mean, I was like, that was my focus. My focus was, I got to get my workout in. I got to hit my numbers, got to do all this stuff. I want to look a certain way, feel a certain way. Now it's sleep. I could not imagine taking that. Now, luckily, shout out Legion Athletics. I use a non-caffeinated pre-workout.
Oh,
it's incredible. I, all the time. Now I only get my caffeine from coffee in a certain dose and a certain time. I'm in the same window. Ideally, I kill it by noon.
That's awesome.
Most days, some days I might push to 2. This is getting wild in your late 30s. Weekend Chase might get crazy and have like a cortado like 2 or 3 p.m.
Uy, uy, uy.
Yeah, on Saturday I'm like, YOLO. Let me just, it's 2:30.
Dame otro.
Let me get that espresso. Yeah, that's wilding out in your late 30s.
Yeah.
But okay, so I do want to wrap it up. I could seriously keep going. I love sleep so much. The last question. Living a life ever forward. The theme of the show. My goal in the show is to bring people on that are experts or have unique experiences in unique areas of life that can help us move forward in a component or all components of our life. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. When you hear those 2 words, Anna Marie, what do they mean to you, ever forward? How do you live a life ever forward?
I should say,
I go to bed.
yeah, go to bed. Turn out the lights.
Go to sleep.
Bed. Invest in you. How do you want your life? I mean, what quality of life do you want? Is it time that you're wanting, or is it quality that you're wanting? And if you want both, that's attainable as well. But you got to start now. And ever forward to me is just, the ultimate optimistic start today. It's never too late. Just do one thing today. What are you going to do today to set yourself up for success tonight when you go to bed? Just one thing.
There's never a right or a wrong answer. I say I appreciate everybody's interpretation. Thank you so much. Where can my audience go to connect with you and learn more about your work? We're highlighting Sleep Me and Chili Pad today, and and quite a few more episodes later on. I've been loving my experience with it. I've been, awesome. I've had a Chili Pad and using it now for years. My audience has heard me talk about it for the last few years. So where can they connect with you, and where can they connect to learn more about Sleep Me and Chili Pad?
Sure. So we are Sleep Me, and you can find us at sleep.me. We understand that this is a high value product. It's an expensive product.
We got a discount for you.
Yeah, we do.
Check the show notes, everybody. It's worth it, I promise you.
It really is. You think about people that will pay $1,000 for a handbag, but you won't pay that to sleep better. Like, to me, there's no price that you can put on.
For years of your life?
Yes, there's no price that you can put on quality sleep and health. I mean, it's an investment either way you look at it. And there's a 30-day money guarantee. But anyway.
You only need one, I promise.
But I would say you can't put a price on quality. You cannot put a price on the quality of life and longevity and happiness. So sweet dreams.
Sleep.me, and I'll have to double check, but we'll have, again, confirmed in the notes for everybody. Your code should be Ever Forward to get a great discount. You got that 30-day in-home guarantee. Seriously, it's been a part of my sleep protocol. I found you guys years ago, and I'm so glad to be back here with you guys. And thank you for bringing so much sleep information to the show today.
My pleasure.